Jimmy Butler had a historical classic performance, one of the best performances we'll ever see. And Drew Holiday didn't really match up against him until like the fourth quarter when it was apparent that okay, Jimmy Butler is like really taking over this game. Jimmy was cooking Chris Middleton this entire game, and quite frankly, I didn't know the Miami Heat had this in them. I thought once Giannis came back, the Bucks would easily beat the Heat and win this series. And I'm not counting out Milwaukee just yet. I know that they're down 3-1, but before coming into this series, when we talked about the Bucks fully healthy versus the Heat, most predicted a sweep, a 5-game series at most. To act like the Bucks with Giannis can't win 3 games in a row, 2 being at home, I think is a bit. It's just going over the top a little bit. This series is not over just yet. The Bucks can come back. With that being said, Jimmy Butler was fantastic, 20 points in the fourth quarter. And as for the Bucks, I mean, if their second player consistently is going to be Brook Lopez, then they're not going to win these games. They're not. They need more out of Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. They need more out of him, and Giannis. There's not much he can do when there's not much spacing around him with these role players. I do think that these role players are a bit of an issue. They don't provide much spacing, and the Heat are kind of exposing some of the weaknesses that lie within the Bucks roster right now.
The spacing's supposed to be Connaughton, Joe Ingles, Grayson Allen. These are all guys that can shoot the basketball.
You have those.
Yeah, their defense stinks. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but they could stretch the floor. Middleton definitely, he needs to play better. Drew Holiday needs to shoot the ball better. But for the majority of the season, the second best player on the Milwaukee Bucks has been Brook Lopez. Let's just be completely honest. So listen, there's no excuse for the Bucks losing tonight's game. You can give them the excuse when Giannis wasn't playing, for sure. That's the best player in the world. Him not playing is going to hurt the Milwaukee Bucks, but there is no excuse for losing this game, especially when you're up at 1 point double digits in the fourth quarter. Jimmy Butler had a Jimmy Butler type performance in the playoffs. And Joel, I'm sorry. The fans would kill me if I didn't acknowledge this. Why'd you sleep? Jimmy Butler in the playoffs is legit. He's one of the best playoff performers of our generation. He needs that acknowledgement. He needs that respect. And that was put on full display today. Jimmy Butler
is one of the what?
He's not one of the best playoff performers of our generation. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
Okay, why are we exaggerating that when realistically he's played alone on this Miami Heat team and nonstop he wills them to victories?
What's our generation again? Just so I'm not tweaking.
Okay. The generation that we have Jamal Murray as one of the best playoff performers ever. Why can't Jimmy Butler?
Who says that?
John, refresh my memory. Come
on, Riv. You act like you're not on this podcast.
Hold up,
You
Drew.
act like you haven't heard people. Yes, please. Come on, stop.
Wait. Hold up. Jamal Murray plays like a superstar in the playoffs. That doesn't mean he's an all-time great generation.
That's what you told me. I said of our generation.
What are we talking about? I never called Jamal Murray one of the greatest playoff performers of our generation.
Oh my God.
Jimmy Butler's not that. Podcast? Hey, hold up, John. Refresh my memory, please, because I knew Drew was going to bring that up. So this is my rebuttal. After the Heat lost the play-in game, wasn't Drew the one that said that they were going to lose to the Bulls and that Zach LaVine was going to outplay Jimmy Butler? One of the best playoff performers of our generation.
So that's your rebuttal. That's your rebuttal for me every single time.
He called this flip-aside protege for backup.
Oh my goodness!
Is that what we're going to use as your rebuttal when you were very adamant, right? Or I've never discredited Jimmy Butler. Even last season,
Zach LaVine would outplay him.
I thought Zach LaVine would have a great game because he did against the Raptors, and that's the reason why they won. Zach LaVine played like trash. Jimmy Butler played very well. I gave that acknowledgement. But regardless of that fact, King, the truth of the matter is you said that Jimmy Butler is not like that come playoff time. I don't understand why he gets overrated as this playoff performer, one of the better playoff performers. Oh, does he? Yes. 56 points in the playoff game, one of the most all-time. The franchise record for the Miami Heat on a team that had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade. Is that what we're going to do?
It's a great performance. Now listen to this. For one, I deleted the tweet. More so because I didn't want to.
Seconds after it was shared with me.
Mostly, well, I didn't know it was shared with you. Mostly because I didn't want my notifications to be flooded. I'll give those notifications to you. You're welcome, Drew. I'll give them to you. I didn't want my notifications to be that much. With that being said, Jimmy Butler, from what I could recall, has had one phenomenal, amazing playoff run. In the bubble, the finals was a great series. overall that run, Goran Dragic was their leading scorer up to the finals. The only playoff run that Jimmy Butler was exceptional was in 2022, going to the Eastern Conference Finals, taking the Celtics to 7. Before the bubble run in his Heat tenure, for the most part, Jimmy Butler has not been this consistent playoff performer. Now, let's say after this performance that Jimmy Butler just had, by the way, he had to have 56 to barely get past the Bucks with Middleton and Holiday having off games. If the Heat blow this series 3-1, is he still an all-time great playoff performer?
Why can't you appreciate what Jimmy Butler's doing right now, bro?
No, I'm just asking.
He just had the fourth most points in a playoff game ever, and you're sitting up here saying, well, what if he blows the 3-1 lead in 5 days? The reality is Jimmy Butler is one of the greatest playoff performers of our generation. Because 6 years ago,
he's not.
I'm trying to understand. Riv, why is that statement so preposterous for you to hear?
I just think
because you're overreacting to one game.
Wait, John, one game 6 years ago in 2017, before Rajon Rondo got hurt, those Bulls were about to take that first seed Celtics team to 7 games,
and they lost because Rondo got hurt. Rondo was
and he had not a single score to support.
You're telling me that
one
of the greatest
Joel, let John talk.
The number 1 seed, the team among many people, had going to the finals this year and even winning it 3-1. He just had 56 points, could not be stopped from mid-range, one of the best performances I've ever seen in the playoffs, went 15 of 18 from the free throw line, could not be stopped, went on an 11-0 run, and then won the game. That was one of the greatest playoff performances we have seen a year after taking a Miami Heat team to the conference finals against the Boston Celtics, and he was the best player in that series.
He's had a good 2-year stretch.
From going to
make him.
He's had 3 of his 4 years in a Miami Heat jersey. He's been unbelievable in the playoffs, and you're going to discredit him for that?
He's not an all-time great playoff performer. What are we doing here?
Of our generation,
no, he's not.
One of the. Yes, he is.
Is he a better playoff performer than Kevin Durant?
No.
Steph Curry?
No. What?
James
so there
Harden?
Can't be.
Yes.
He's not a better player than James Harden. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Look at the averages. Look at the averages. James Harden is better in the playoffs.
Go ahead, Riv. Go ahead.
I just think, me personally, I just think there's a pretty good gap between Kawhi, Steph, Kevin Durant, LeBron, and then the rest of the league in terms of playoff performance. I think those 4 guys have pretty much. And John, you made that face. I'm giggling if you make that face, because Jimmy Butler, by no stretch of imagination, is on the same level as playoff performers as those 4 guys we just named. Not even close. So for you to say he's an all-time great
John,
performer,
I'm with you. Don't lose me.
It's like, to say he's great. I'm with you. If you say he's great, that's fine. If you say he can give you one of them ones. Okay, but to say all-time great, I think it's a stretch. I think that is the where you lose me.
I didn't say all-time great. I said of our generation.
Even then,
that's our generation. Is that crazy?
Are from our generation.
I understand that. I'm saying these guys are better.
He's not in that first year. He's not in that first year of guys.
James Harden right now versus Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, yes, he's a better playoff performer than James Harden currently. We're talking about Houston James Harden, who took the Golden State Juggernaut Warriors to 7 games. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about?
His one run.
He's had multiple runs where he was.
No, I'm just saying the Golden State Warriors.
He led the Rockets to two Western Conference Finals in his tenure.
I remember his last run with the Rockets being over in 5 games.
He averaged 30 in that series.
Okay, really? Let's be real. 5 games, averaging 30. The Rockets didn't look great overall. What was his efficiency? I'm genuinely curious.
Hold up, Drew. In 2021, the first round of the playoffs, what was Jimmy Butler's efficiency versus the Milwaukee Bucks?
2021, he was not great. He was not great.
It was dog shit.
But again, like I said, three of the 4 years he's been in a Miami Heat jersey, he's played unbelievable.
Riv, I want to ask you, before you go, John, Riv, I want to ask you something. So John over here, who states that Jimmy Butler is one of the greatest playoff performers of just generation. He says Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
They were up on the Boston Celtics, the first seeded Celtics, with Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo goes down and they lose the series. Shouldn't one of the greatest platformers of the generation not lose 4 straight games?
Get one. Yeah, at least get one. He did not get one.
What are you talking about, John? This is an overreaction. And it's
like
funny.
Jimmy Butler is an older, more mature, more refined.
Jimmy Butler.
Are we going to pretend
Jimmy
that that's
Butler
not the case?
had a historical performance. We can appreciate his great performance. 4th most points ever in a playoff game. John, you want to know who's 5th? Name me that player. Who's 5th, John?
Charles Barkley?
John, who's 5th? Think.
think is crazy.
Is it Charles?
No, who's asking that?
Oh, you want to know who's 5?
Might be
'Cause
Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
or Jamal Murray.
Donovan Mitchell, the guy that you routinely
Donovan.
crap on, right? That you routinely crap on, although his playoff averages look amazing.
Yeah, I got
You
a bone to
overlooked
pick
that,
with you, John. I got a bone to pick with you.
What are we
We'll
talking
get into
about?
that
Let me
later.
continue. Well,
What are we
first
talking
off,
about?
Jimmy Butler is a better player now than he was 6 years ago.
For sure.
And I think we could all agree that he's gotten better in the mid-range area.
Riv?
I don't know why you're making that funny
It's-
face.
it's
Like,
Chicago?
Because of the defense. It's
There's
because
not-
of the defense.
I don't know if
No, you
there's
talking
a
about
guy
Chicago?
who-
I think he's
by
a
pure
better
will
shooter
does
in
more.
Chicago than he was now. He was still relatively the same playmaker. Defensively, he was better in Chicago than he was in Miami. I think he's a better player, but I
and
don't
that's
know.
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I
Jimmy
don't know.
Butler does things that he shouldn't be able to. It's sheer will. And that's the difference here. And yeah, Donovan Mitchell years ago was hitting his peak, but we're seeing Jimmy Butler at 33 years old continue to get better, it feels like, in the playoff crucible. And that's why right now people are so high on him. What he's doing for the first time in 16 years, to have a 1 seed on the ropes like this, even if Giannis missed 2 games. In game 1, they're outplaying the Bucks before Giannis got hurt. And then in game 4, he led one of the craziest comebacks. That was him backpacking the entire game. And they stepped up, Caleb Martin, Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson. But ultimately, I don't know if there's a bigger floor raiser in the postseason than Jimmy. And that's why I think he's starting to enter that mix of maybe not Steph Curry because he's a top 12 player of all time, but I think he's definitely earned his name in that company with his two-way ability and how well he's raised his team's floors the last 4 years. And it's all about 2021. His team had less than a 2-month break before a 5-month regular season. They're beaten and battered. And they went up against my Milwaukee Bucks team that went to the NBA Finals. Like, I'm not going to hold that one run against Jimmy when in the last 2 years he's continued to show who he really is, continuing to get better and better.
You hold 1 runs against players all the time.
But how do you respond? That's what makes legendary players, my friend.
Are you implying that Jimmy Butler's a legendary player?
This is what we're
He's
getting
getting
into.
to that trajectory. If he
Oh,
continues
fuck.
on there.
You
All
can't be a
right.
legendary player
Yeah,
having
you
no
lost
rings,
me.
bro. What are we
And
doing?
He needs a
also,
championship for that.
Jimmy
Throw
Butler, can
these
we?
names around and have 0 rings? He has the finals appearance. Like, we have legendary generational all time, and he has 1 finals appearance. What are we doing here?
Hey,
Dehls, you're
Hey,
just-
Dehls, I want to
You
ask.
sound like a Celtic fan that's afraid to play this guy in the playoffs.
Get
my
out of
friend.
here. Get out of here. Celtics would smoke the Heat. Let's stop fucking talk. Let's
They
talk.
said that
top.
last
Listen,
year,
I thought they were going to smoke the
I
Heat
didn't.
last year, and they didn't. I was
Now
wrong
listen,
about that.
Dehls. You are the most unbiased analyst in the world. So I got to ask you this question.
Fact.
When it comes to Jimmy Butler, okay, yeah, if we want to take this playoff series and last year and just measure him by these two and be like, okay, these 2 playoff series, these 2 playoff runs are why he's the greatest, one of the greatest playoff runs of our generation, you have a case. Ultimately, it's the totality of your career. The totality of Jimmy Butler's career is not that. It's
What
not.
are you basing that off of?
And Dehls, do you think the totality of Jimmy
Butler?
Butler's career represents an all-time great platform of this generation?
No, you can't go that far. Riv listed off the names. I mean, like, you're talking about generational all time. It's the LeBrons, Kawhis, KDs, guys who have all the numbers, have the championships. I think you need to have both. And of course, that Lakers team was better than that Heat team in the bubble. But even still, I don't think you could give him that high of label. You say he's a great player performer, but I don't think you need to go to that level.